how can we test it if
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people living around?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah.
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay,
it's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who claims
anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
They're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that,
we're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government, how many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know
Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known. And we've heard as much as we need to hear from Ted Cruz of all people. Welcome. Niele, welcome. Niele, you are on mute. Okay, you're still on mute, but
I think I've just been unmuted. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm having a little technical difficulty this morning, so I'm gonna keep it short.
Well, it's okay. You'll find your groove shortly. Stella got her groove back, so why not Niele? So there you go. Well, I mean, you've seen the video she just played, and it is a sad day. It's a sad day when you see a senator who is pushing for something and don't know anything about what he's pushing for. Senator Ted Cruz, all he knows is that somehow, some way, somebody in Iraq said something nasty about his hero, Donald Trump, and he wants to do something about it. And Tucker Carlson, who is in a split now, Donald Trump fired off some missives at Tucker Carlson last night, and Steve Bannon as well. Steve Bannon and Tucker are in the same camp with this war, because according to the MAGA principles, these so-called forever wars, which this would be one of those forever wars, this is not a part of MAGA in their so-called principles. And Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson are both lashing out that the U.S. should not get involved. Yeah, here we are. So, yeah, Ted Cruz is. You've seen it. Just idiotic stuff there. David Youngblood says, "I wish for zero nuclear weapons. However, I have found that those with them never get attacked." I think that's a true statement. Everyone's talking about, oh, well, they have nuclear weapons. Well, don't America have nuclear weapons? Don't Russia have nuclear weapons? I know the idea was to kind of eliminate them. But I'm trying to bring Niele back in here. Her camera does look like it's working now.
Okay.
So what's going on?
I just want to make sure. Okay, good morning. I am having technical difficulties. It's the internet connection. I might have to find another provider because this is horrific this morning. But MAGA is, infighting. The turmoil is there. Not a good time as we're on the brink of World War III. So they're in control. The Democrats are not focused. So our country, America, has a problem.
Yeah, and this is what I was saying too. Someone posted under the name "Learning to Love Myself" says he ran on no new wars. Trump did ran on no new wars, and that he is the peacemaker and great negotiator. So here we are, and this is what's even dividing MAGA, and you love to see it. Because as you've been pointing out, Niele, with the No Kings rallies and all the other stuff that's going on, the resistance, now you have MAGA themselves sort of kind of splitting. So this is actually, if you want to really look at it closely, isn't that some good news?
I mean, it's good news if we weren't on the brink of World War III, and we haven't figured out yet what Trump is doing. Is this a deflection? Um, is there something happening over here that we don't know about? Yesterday there was this video from Anonymous that broke that everybody is sharing. You don't know if it's AI, you don't know if it's real, but Anonymous is saying that something is about to happen, and it has to do with our own leaders in this country. So you just really don't know what's happening right now. Is it AI? Is it not? Is it truth? It's just a lot to process.
Well, yeah. Listen, you've said it, and we all know it's true. When they're directing your attention to one matter, they're doing about 12 or 13 other things where you're not paying attention. So you always got to be wary of that.
For sure.
And and there's that. Let us pray. There's that anonymous video. I don't know if you wanted to show it, Greer, but there is that anonymous video. I don't know how many have seen it, but we don't know, like she said, if it's AI or real.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are reposting it. That was DL Hughley's repost. But they said a whole lot of nothing, but they had said something. They didn't say when, they didn't say how. They just said beware, something is about to happen, and it's from our own. It's not a foreign, it's not Iran, it's not Russia, it's not China. It's going to be from our own, which I'm thinking they're talking about our leadership. They're saying, don't say I didn't warn you. But they're not saying when, who, how, and why. So,
Yeah, exactly. Well, RNG says he don't believe it's World War III. Iran, he says, doesn't have any allies in that region. This war will be based on lies and about nukes for 33 years. Benjamin Netanyahu has claimed Iran has nukes, and it is a lie. And Dr. Joni says that's what happens when the government, along with Fox News and right-wing podcasters, spread lies to the country. People don't know what to believe. And Mike V says Tulsi Gabbard said in front of the House that Iran didn't have a nuclear weapon, but Trump said after G7 he didn't care what she had to say. So it's woo.
Right. Right. And I really don't think that I really don't think when I think of World War III today with technology, I'm not thinking of nuclear weapons. I'm not thinking of guns and shootouts. I'm thinking of technology. So I think that when we look at war now, we have to think of how they're going to attack our infrastructure, our technology, our banking systems. If people can't get their money out the bank, it's going to cause mayhem. If we can't use our phones, we can't communicate. We have cars that are electronic, like Teslas. That's what I'm thinking of. They're going to attack our infrastructure, which will be way worse than any shootout. Or nukes were something that scared us in the past, and we still should be scared. But I really believe it's going to be a war on technology.
I think so too. I think I agree with that. I can't disagree with that at all. And we've talked for a long time now about the banking systems and things of that nature. You're right. You're not going to be able to access any money. Perhaps even your debit cards and things of that nature will not operate. And phones. Yeah. So all of that. So we'll see. We will see.
Your cars.
Your cars. Well, and you mentioned Tesla, but and the electric vehicles, but most vehicles, most modern vehicles now, they have some sort of technology involved in them too. You never know. You just don't know. It's a lot to process. It's a lot to be aware of. But folks, the best thing to do is one of the best things anyway is to make sure you have a emergency go bag. Everybody should have an emergency go bag. And
stock up on your toilet paper, your water. I know that's funny, but remember, you couldn't find no Lysol, you couldn't find no toilet paper during COVID.
Nothing.
Get your bag and get your stock up on your goods.
Stock up on them, and you don't really need the baby oil that doesn't exist because Diddy has it all. Don't worry about stocking up on the baby oil. He beat you to it.
Do in their bedrooms, people want some baby oil in their bedrooms. Go for it, because we might be in for the long. Do what you do, okay? Just don't hurt nobody.
Well, speaking of Diddy, the Diddy trial is finally coming to an end. Prosecutors are expected to rest their case finally today in the trial of Sean Diddy Combs after a month and a half of testimony. Prosecutors are attempting to close on a high note. Jurors were shown videos for the first time of freak-offs between Diddy and Cassie. The videos also included sex workers at a New York City hotel, and they were from 2012 and 2014. They were shown in short clips, and some jurors reacted visibly to the graphic tapes, of course, and the videos they were not shown to the gallery or the media. They were only shown to the jury, which was, understandably, it's unfortunate that the jury had to witness them as well, but it's part of the case, so they didn't want to show it publicly, understandably so. Also, yesterday was highlighted with the judge asking the prosecution and defense about an online article that appeared to include details from a sealed proceeding. The judge was livid and asked both sides if they knew the article's source. He said, the judge told the defense and the prosecution, one of y'all are lying. He says that transcript was sealed. One or more people who were here on Friday in this courtroom flagrantly violated this court's orders, a violation of the court's sealing order. But it wasn't just that, he said. He said that any such breach again, the lead defense attorney and or the lead prosecutor would be held accountable for. So we will see what that entails, if anything comes of that. But also, Brendan Paul, who worked for Diddy, took the stand to invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination before taking the stand later. He was granted an immunity order, which requires him to tell the truth to protect himself from prosecution. Defense attorneys said that their case will last 2 to 5 days. So indeed, we are nearing the end of this saga of the Diddy trial. And as the prosecutors wrap up, everyone following is curious as to whether they proved their case.
That was a lot. So
about as much of a summary we can give.
I think what's happening outside of the court sometimes is just as juicy as what's happening inside, with all of the mayhem going on around all of the people that are allowed inside the court and bringing us information outside of the court. I know we talked about Kanye popping up to court last week. There was conversation about one of the largest freak-offs that I've heard. As when the case first started, we thought that these freak-offs involved so many people, so many celebrities, but during the court case, we found that they were intimate interactions between Puffy, his girlfriend, and whoever his girlfriend was at the time, and escorts. But we found out last week the largest freak off was with some hip hop artists. Not a lot, but it happened in Las Vegas with Jane Doe. We're not going to say who Jane Doe is, but I think that she's been identified. So if you want to snoop around TMZ or other places or TikTok, you can definitely identify who that person is. And we just show. Are we showing our picture? Okay. Um, um, and so it's very salacious and juicy. I know yesterday they said with the jurors, a female juror was like just horrified, and then there was a younger juror that was looking at the video, and he put his hand like this, the way they described it, and he was all into the video. And then there was another younger man who giggled. So there have been all types of reactions. And they also said that in the courtroom, while the video was playing, you could hear a pin drop. It was so quiet. And you could hear some of the audio from the video because it was so quiet. So it's just really messy. And whether Diddy gets off or not, he's still painted as a pervert now.
Oh, without question. No one's going to work with him. And you mentioned
Well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that.
Well, when I say that, no, what I mean by that, let me clarify that. There's no sponsors, there's no corporations that's going to work with him. Other artists probably will do some music with him, but there's no way he's signing any type of endorsement deals. No way that nobody's going to sponsor anything to do with Diddy. That's out.
Yeah, in the beginning, yeah. But in time, you never know. If Donald Trump can be president, you never know what can happen in time.
If Donald Trump could be president, how about that? That's boy, oh boy, have they made that such a small leap now?
The bar is so low. The bar is very low.
Oh my God.
Low. Okay.
And speaking of these, again, before I move to that, the Tyler Perry thing, but the question is, really, did the prosecution, as they end their case today, did they prove their case? You remember the charges, of course. It had nothing to do with domestic violence, unfortunately. Did they prove racketeering? Did they prove some sort of conspiracy and sex trafficking? That is the big question that the jury is going to have to ask. And you can imagine that when the prosecution officially rests later today, the defense will ask the judge to say not guilty. Of course, that's just how they do it. And of course, the judge will reject that. But Greer says we don't know enough. And that's true. We're not in that courtroom, but hearing so-called experts, former judges and defense attorneys and even former prosecutors who work on these networks as analysts, it seems like it's a toss-up. It really, really, at this point in the prosecution's case, a lot of times you say, okay, well, looks like he might, this defendant might go, get convicted. Looks like he may not. It's generally not as open-ended as this, and we'll see. We will see.
Yeah, I think at this point, everybody is speculating, but nobody has been in that courtroom every day like those jurors have. And so at the end of the day, with all the speculation, it's going to be what those 12 people decide, because they have been there from day to day, except the juror that they kicked out. But the alternatives are in the room as well. And so they've been there every day. We haven't. We get bits and pieces, including the reporters that are in the court. They're not in there every day. Sometimes they're in the overflow room, and sometimes they don't get in at all, and they have to depend on what is being put out from the court. So those 12 jurors will be the ones to decide Diddy's fate.
Yeah. And the overflow room, you are able to hear all of the testimony, but you're not able to be if you're not in that main courtroom, you can't really get the feel of it. You can hear, but you can't get the feel of it. So I, even if a reporter has been there every day in the overflow room, it's still hard to really get the feel of what's really going on. So I hear what you're saying there.
Because none of the reporters have been in either room every day consistently. It just fluctuates. So nobody has gotten the whole story except the jurors.
Yep, exactly. Also, we learned Tyler Perry is being sued for $260 million. What a random number, but $260 million by an actor who claims that not sexual assault, not sexual, but harassment. And he put out, apparently there's been some text messages put out. I don't know about you, Niele, but the text messages that I saw, and maybe there's more that I didn't see, didn't seem to suggest any real harassment.
No, I saw a lot of flirting, in like trying to test the water, so to say. I saw a lot of testing of the waters, but I didn't see any harassment. And I thought like this probably is another shakedown like Diddy. Because if you realize everybody is after getting the information from the trial, a lot of people feel like Cassie, Jane Doe, and the other lady was jealous of Carisha, Young Miami, and how he was publicly showing her love. And, they didn't get that same situation. All they got was freak off. And then if you notice, just earlier this week, news broke of Tyler Perry being on a yacht with Mariah Carey's ex-boyfriend. And so that picture went viral. And then 2 days later, you have this. So I'm like, is there just a lot of bitter people out here? And so if I can't have you, I'm going to take you down with a shakedown?
Well, I was going to say, or is it just folks seeing an opportunity to, as you say, shake down people with money, celebrities, and particularly Black male celebrities? I'm going to break it down right there because we keep seeing this over and over and over again. And Greer says that she believes it was a setup from the beginning with this man and Tyler Perry. It was a setup from the beginning, she says.
I don't know if it was a setup or maybe he got jealous because he seen the yacht pictures. And he heard, about this other. I mean, and I think Jamie Foxx, video is going viral now with Jamie Foxx talking about how being a celebrity is no longer fun. Like being famous back in the day used to be fun. But in today's climate with social media, it's not fun anymore. It's just not. And I think like these are situations where you see being a celebrity is tough because Tyler Perry gives out so many opportunities and he wants love. He wants a little nasty time too.
Well, isn't he married? He can get love from his wife,
no,
right?
he's not married. He's not married.
Oh, he's not?
He's never been married. No, he's
Wait, he had a big wedding. He did get married. He had a huge
wedding. He's never been married. He's had a child with and they're not with his girlfriend. They're no longer together. But no, he's never been married.
Broken up, she said. I thought that he had a huge wedding somewhere with Stevie Wonder sang and all that stuff.
That's not true.
No, not true. Oh, okay. Goodness grief. Well,
so
Tyler,
he's never been married. He's never been married. He's a single man. A lot of couples meet in the workplace. Okay, people meet and fall in love in the workplace. And if he is, flirt, I mean, he's entitled to flirt. He's entitled to, see if there's a love connection in certain situations. Based upon the text messages, I saw a lot of light flirting, but I didn't see anything to where it garnered a lawsuit or he was harassing him.
$160 million. Greer says Tyler is too, he's not that sloppy. He has too much to lose. He can't be that sloppy. It's not about
the text messages were flirtatious lightly, but not to the point to where, and I'm tired of these people saying, well, I feel like if I didn't, I wouldn't get. Well, maybe you need to get somewhere else. Okay.
100%.
I felt like if I didn't, then I wouldn't be able to maintain my lifestyle. Or if I didn't, I wouldn't get the gig. Well, you know what? Well, maybe you need to try to get another gig. But you can't take the job, do the deed, and then say you a victim.
Oh, absolutely. And this man says he's straight. So that's another thing too that's really weird about this whole thing too. It just seems if this is a straight man, and I just can't see. I don't know Tyler Perry personally. We do know he has a whole lot to lose for doing something stupid. I just can't see him pushing up on this guy the way that they want us to. The way it's come out, it's just hard to see it.
It's his allegations against Tyler. And when you look at the text messages, the minute that Tyler sent him the picture of him on the jet ski, and he says nice, and Tyler says to him, well, what about the dude in the picture? He could have said, haha, just FYI, Tyler, I'm straight,
Right.
I gotta get in this.
Oh, shoot, here we go.
Also, he claims that Tyler climbed on top of him at a hotel. They had been drinking somewhere, whatever, and rubbed his thigh. What straight man do you know gonna let another man climb up on him and they ain't fighting? You know what I mean?
Why don't you say this by showing your face?
Is going to be to knock this man out and be damned with the job. And you know what I mean? Because first of all, that's your lawsuit right there if you want to do it. So I just think it's suspect. I think Tyler, he got too much to lose. He's been going at this for like, this ain't the first time somebody probably tried to shake him down. So he knows. But even more than that, listen, Monique won an Oscar and they shut him down. This dude is a B actor. I don't even know who he is. So you really got to have your ducks in a row to come at someone of that caliber. I think it's a setup.
I think it could very well be. And I think that people have to also understand that I think you two are the same, but we're not just capping for celebrities.
No.
It's about what makes sense. I think what you said makes sense. Dr. Nicole also makes sense. She says that people like Diddy and Tyler Perry are considered gatekeepers in their industry. So simply getting a different gig may not be an option. But I just think that we're not just giving a blanket pass to celebrities who are accused. I think that people deserve to be heard if they are victims. They definitely deserve to be heard. They definitely deserve to have their day in court. It's just sometimes, at least the way it's presented, it gives you reason to say, come on.
Right. I'm not saying he couldn't have had him. I'm saying he could have, but he has a right to date. You know what I mean? I didn't feel the text messages that were shown was enough evidence to show like, oh, he was harassed. You know what I mean? There was nothing saying, oh, dude, I don't, like if you're going to show him flirting, why don't you also show you saying, oh, I'm not interested?
Yeah, I think that Tyler Perry, to the point, is a gatekeeper, but he opens the gate for
absolutely. It goes both ways.
For so many forgotten actors and actresses, you hear the stories about how him providing, and not just providing an opportunity, but paying Black folks what they're worth, which is something that Hollywood rarely does. And so, I mean, I think that people should think about that as well. And I'm sure that if this was something that Tyler felt like he should have paid off, he probably would have with an NDA. I just think I think that these people are getting jealous because they're seeing people in spaces that they think they should be in, and so they sue. Same thing with Diddy. I think Diddy is a jerk. I think he's a nasty pervert. But at the same time, what he does in his personal bedroom is his business. And I think that based upon the testimonies in these cases, these women was mad because he gave Young Miami the space and the limelight that he never gave those women. And I think that's a part of it as well. And I think that we have to say that just as much as we say he's a nasty pervert.
And also, I think it can't be missed on folks that Hollywood is a place of just nastiness. It is a place of demonic stuff. People do the craziest things, the wildest stuff, sexually and otherwise. And it's one of those places that you just don't know. You could never really know.
Choice. You have the choice.
It is a place of choice.
Yeah. I've had memories. I'll tell you a quick one about my Tupac memory. I had just got back from college. We was my friends, you know, her dude was like, y'all go have fun. We was in Hollywood. We passed by the Best Western, and who was in the parking lot? Tupac and Thug Life. Pulled into the hotel. We got us a room. Tupac and all the fellas, Thug Life came. They was smoking their weed. We was having a good time. He told me I had a nice bus line. I'm gonna keep it $100. We was having fun. They left, and guess what? They came back at 2:00 in the morning, knocking on our door. Did we open the door? No. It was a choice we made. Another situation with Wu-Tang Clan. Everybody has choices to make, and the choice is yours to make, but you can't be mad because you made a choice and now you don't like the outcome of it. And I'm not talking about rape. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about a lot of this stuff. We make decisions to participate. I have friends that have participated and I have friends that haven't, but they're all choices that we make. And I just think a lot of these women, they want to come up, and that's what they do. I'm not talking about victims. I'm talking about these video vixens, these Insta models, these OnlyFans girls. They are just as manipulative, aggressive, and hungry as the men are.
Absolutely. And you know, and they know that they all have a certain profile. Sadly, a lot of men in the entertainment business, they fetishize these women because something the sister brought up, which is true, you know, when you really look at it, right? Like even with Diddy, you know, Young Miami and like the black girls didn't get that, you know, weren't treated this way. But these women who had this particular profile, right, that you're describing, these, you know, these women are fetishized and they know it. And they, you know, they make a decision. And then, you know, to want to come back later and be, you know, don't be mad at Young Miami because she getting, you know, she getting the back. She know how to do her thing.
And don't she liked to be peed on. Young Miami said she liked to be peed on.
Okay? Listen, right. Well, listen, but she don't be mad, right? Because that's just, you know, I don't mean to say it like this, but some black women just aren't going to tolerate certain things. So
a couple quick things on
saying, you know, and these women are getting fetishized now. They want to be, you know, victims, but they put themselves in these positions to do that. You need to get, you know, hell, be like Kim Kardashian, you know, turn into a business and keep it.
Well, just so folks, a little bit more context for both Niele and Greer. They both have worked closely in the entertainment business. Greer's even worked with Diddy, among others. She wasn't in the freak-offs parties, but both of them have more. This is why
allegedly.
I mean, they allegedly wasn't in the freak-off parties. But they have both worked very close with a lot of these people that we've talked about, that we are talking about, and people like them. So. You know, it's good to hear from you. Almost got insiders, or you basically got insiders views here. So I'm not going to argue with them. Dr. Joni says, I do not think this is the same thing, and we have to be careful what we say is versus what we personally think. So all of that, just to contextualize it all.
Let me just tell you, the 90s and the 2000s was a time, okay? And it was popping.
They were
having, you know, I've had interactions with all of them. You know, I've been at Dr. Dre's house at 3:00 in the morning with Snoop Dogg, Rupp, and Suge Knight.
What was you doing? 3:00 in the morning with Snoop and Dogg.
We left the club. Tupac was in the club. They wasn't even messing with Tupac at this time, and they was like, let's go back to Dre's house. Had a ball. Now, what some people chose to do upstairs, that was their business. You know what I'm saying? But we
stayed downstairs. You stayed downstairs the whole time.
Yeah, I went to high school with Corrupt, but we was having a good time. But my point is, the 90s and the 2000s was a good time. It was a time where black men were getting money and building wealth. And it was a time where choices and decisions were made. Now, I'm not talking about victims. But let me just tell you, it was a lot of female willing participants. And they didn't have to be begged or coaxed into situations. They did it because they wanted to, and they did it because they wanted the clout. And that's just the reality of it. And I'm saying that as a woman, seen it with my own eyes.
And the same, almost the same here. You know, I've mentioned before where I have been extras and worked on videos of a lot of folks, and I saw some things that could not in any way be classified as assault. The women vixens, as you say, willingly and readily offering themselves in various ways to the stars.
I'm telling you,
I've seen that up close and personal.
I'll tell you one more story. Before Diddy, there was NWA. And I was only 16 at the time. Don't ask how I got in the club. But I went to an NWA pajama party. And you can even go back and Google NWA parties and see the disgust that men and women were doing. I seen a girl on stage with her do a split in the sky and land on a Corona bottle. And I'm going to just leave it there. It was females doing things willingly, okay? And they were all in the room. I believe that like I said, I believe that Diddy is a nasty dog, but it's a lot of nasty females out there too. I'm just saying.
Mike V said Freaknik in the 90s led to freak-offs in the 2000s.
Okay, and remember Freaknik, I seen people getting fellatio both ways on Peachtree Street. I seen girls butt naked riding in Rolls Royces. It was men and women. Men and women. Okay, so I'm just saying.
And you cannot talk bad about Freaknik because Orange would have a fit. That's his, that was his favorite.
It was the best time ever. It was the best time ever, but it was like you could participate. It's just how you wanted to participate. It was your choice.
He said 2 Live Crew had the most wildest women ever. Shout out to Thunder and Diamond. What? This has denigrated a little bit here. Dr. Jones, you got to stop to this.
I know, but I think it's important to like have a balanced conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because it's important to have a balanced conversation, and we're hearing, what's happening to Black men, but there have been a lot of Black female participants. That's all I'm saying, and they're victims too.
So yesterday, I had a 90-minute long conversation with an accuser of Russell Simmons, and the topic for her was mostly that HBO documentary that they did. One of the things she did say, she went into it thinking that it was going to be about someone else, not Russell, but a very famous individual from, and I'll just say this, from Law and Order, who they had said several women have said did some things to them, SA'd them. And when they got the storyline, they were told what to say and how to say it. And all of a sudden it became about Russell Simmons. And not that she's saying that Russell's innocent. She didn't say that at all. She maintains that Russell assaulted her. But she also described how there were women accusers who put themselves in positions who made you not believe their stories and said what you said, that they willingly did some things and then later claimed that, hey, this is, I was SA'd, as they say. But I tell you what, when you talk about victims and stuff like that, it has become such a blurred line between victims and those, and it's unfortunate because there are victims out there, but between victims and those who accuse.
Yeah, and I think that's where the like you said, I think it's a very blurred situation because sometimes, they get it so much there's that one time where they didn't realize they were taking it, or you know what I'm saying? And I'm not defending men. But I think that sometimes the lines get blurred because of the power factor and because who says no to you. So if you've had so many yeses or so many maybes that have turned into yeses, or some just like, well, it happened and whatever, you know, to that one victim, that two victims, or you know, it just becomes so blurry. But I also think choices. You make choices. You know, if you go to somebody's room after midnight, your parents teach you best. Ain't nothing open past midnight but legs. You know what I'm saying? Your parents taught that's parenting 101 for a 14, 15-year-old. And so, you know, we have to go back to that thought process too. But I think we're living in a time now with these young girls, they don't care.
The first time I heard that one, Mike V is laughing too, because that's the first time I heard that one. That's a pretty good one too. Ain't nothing open past 3 but legs.
Nothing. You know, my grandfather used to tell me, Niele, keep your panties on. You know, it's lessons that your parents teach you.
You know, and I'm glad Dr. Joni mentioned this, because it's unfortunate that we only media only pays attention, or have been paying attention to these accusations about Hollywood folks. But she says there are millions of rape kits that are on shelves in every state of this country that haven't even been tested yet. So the Hollywood celebrity stories get coverage in media where most people don't. I think you're 100% right. And the Me Too movement was supposed to be about that. And then it was hijacked to make it about white women in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And that is a shame, because you're right. So many women,
Dr. Joni. I agree.
So many victims out there. Yep. 100%.
Yeah, Hollywood is totally different from the average person working at Denny's, or the executive assistant in just the Xerox company. Those situations are totally different than what's happening in Hollywood. Hollywood, there are a lot more factors, slippery slopes, and discussions than, you know, the average person. And yes, Me Too hijacked that whole conversation that could have been an opportunity to empower women. They hijacked it for women of privilege. And that's horrible. I mean, because you talk about those women, and then you think about sex and real sex and human trafficking, you know, and then you look at the Diddy case, they are not the same at all.
Yeah, I think a lot of people agree with that. We'll finally move off the topic. But it's a great conversation. I hate to move off of it, because even Dr. Joni says she agreed that the movement was taken over and could have helped all women. Totally agree. Too much. Patricia Jackson says too much reality TV. Young girls see the glory, then feel the gory. Great point there. I want to switch gears though to talk about the fires out in LA that we don't talk about much anymore. But apparently, what the fires didn't destroy, the real estate market might, turning tragedy into opportunity for investors and a loss into a forced exit for longtime residents. They are selling these lots and you know, really out from under the homeowners, Niele.
Yeah, there's some of that going on, but you have like the Pasadena NAACP chapter. I know Radio One has teamed up with the Brotherhood Crusade out here, which was co-founded by Danny Bakewell Sr., who owns the Los Angeles Sentinel newspaper, that are definitely trying to help the Black community of Altadena, which is like Pasadena. You know, so this doesn't happen to so many people. So I know that there are a lot of support that's happening. The LA Sentinel actually did a couple months ago a whole convention, well, not convention, but summit weekend to provide resources. I mean, like on-site resources to help you maintain your house, to help you with resources to rebuild. And so I think that that's very important. The Bakewells they live in Pasadena, Altadena area. And so this is very personal to them. So once again, the Black press, Black newspapers are on the front line for this conversation that we're having. Kathy Hughes for sure. She actually called me and was like, Niele, I need to speak to Danny. And I was like, okay, Miss H. And so Mr. Bakewell referred her to Brotherhood Crusade for that. So I think it's important that as we talk about it, we also uplift the resources that are available. So if you're from the area, the Brotherhood Crusade, the NAACP Pasadena chapter, there are resources there. But another thing that's also happening, Stacy, with that situation is the insurance companies. And California has recently did an inquiry into State Farm, accusing them of illegal schemes. Fire victims sue State Farm over grossly uninsured homes. And so a lot of things that were happening is the insurance companies all of a sudden decided that they weren't going to insure fire homes. And so you have all those types of things that are happening that don't allow for the business owners and the homeowners to be able to, rebuild, because the insurance companies that they're working with are screwing them.
Yeah. Boy. Well, we'll keep up to date with that. Also, this morning we can say welcome back to Wakanda. It's coming back officially. Black Panther 3 is now in the works, officially in the works, I should say. It has been in the works. As some might know, Denzel Washington has owned up to leaking secrets about Black Panther 3. The Oscar winner had about, a few weeks ago, a month ago, spilled the beans about the unconfirmed Marvel film, at the time unconfirmed, while he was promoting Gladiator 2. And he let everyone know that he was going to be in Black Panther 3. And he says that he called director Ryan Coogler to apologize for the slip up. So anyway, the bottom line is, here comes Black Panther 3. So who's excited about it?
I think it's just a beautiful meeting. When you think about Wakanda, you think about Chad Boswick. When you think about the connection with Denzel Washington, and how Ryan Coogler played a part in bringing Chad and Denzel together, because I think Denzel paid for some type of schooling or some type of program for Chad Boswick, and he never was able to thank him. And so Ryan Coogler played a moment in their encounter to come together so that Chad could thank him. And now he's a part of Black Panther. I think that, it's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful addition. I think he will. And you know who else said they want to come back? Angela Bassett. Now she says she wants to come back from the dead.
Oh, wow. Interesting stuff. And speaking of Denzel, his Equalizer 3 is making waves on Prime. They saying that it is one of the most watched shows on Prime. Equalizer 3 is available. So Denzel doing Denzel things.
Yeah, and he's a pastor. He was baptized at the Church of God in Christ, and he's on his spiritual journey to be a preacher or a minister within the Church of God in Christ. So he is on the faith walk and a Hollywood walk.
Oh, okay. Hollywood walk, the faith walk. Okay. Folks, here's something to just to make it a little serious stuff here, is to keep an eye on a new warning from the Federal Trade Commission saying that scammers are now targeting victims twice. After conning someone out of money, they strike again, this time pretending to be Federal Trade Commission agents offering to recover stolen funds. They use fake badge numbers, phony IDs, and official sounding language to gain trust and steal more personal information. The FTC makes it clear it never calls, never asks for money, and never connects people to, quote, agents who do. Experts say these scams use AI and internet sourced images to make fake credentials look real, and criminals are specifically targeting people they know have already been scammed, victims whose names are being sold on the dark web. Law enforcement says always verify identities, never trust caller provided numbers, and report scams immediately to the FTC. So what they're doing is they're scamming people, saying that they're from the FTC, and then re-scamming them, saying that we understand you've been scammed and we're here to help.
I blame the Trump Klan administration.
There you go.
I'm blaming them for every damn thing. I don't care what they get blamed for everything, but they did sell our they did take our information, so we don't know. And remember, the people on Doge were 18, 20-year-old young people who don't have any regard for anything except technology. So I just blame the Trump Klan administration. I don't know how, I don't know why, but they're at the bottom of this. They're giving out our information. They're giving it out.
Yeah, and the thing to understand is, folks, never give your information over the phone to someone that you can't verify. And remember, a lot of these agencies, especially like the IRS, the FTC, they will never ask you for your personal information. And they don't send, mailings that tell you to send money or anything like that. So just be careful. And I guess the biggest victims are seniors. And we did a report not long ago that African-American seniors are becoming increasingly victimized by these scams. So talk to your grandparents, your parents, your aunts, your uncles, or whatever, and make sure that they're okay, and help them to appreciate that what you know, that you don't give your information to these folks. So there you have it, folks.
Yeah, that important information, Stacy. We have a few more headlines to run through. And we'll start in North Carolina, where a redistricting trial began over allegations that Republicans enacted maps that eroded Black voting power. Now, the trial involves two lawsuits filed in 2023. Now, both lawsuits claim that lines are so messed up for GOP candidates that lines were so messed up by GOP candidates that many Black voters cannot elect their preferred candidates, violating the Voting Rights Act. So they allege that map makers spread out Black voting blocks, which historically have favored Democrats, and they broke it up into other districts benefiting Republicans. Now, they point out to cities like Greensboro, High Point, and Winston-Salem. And they said Republicans split the concentrated Black voting population within multiple U.S. House districts. Now, those seats that were flipped turned a 7-7 delegation into a 10-4 Republican advantage, helping the GOP keep a narrow control of the House, which has helped advance Donald Trump's agenda, which in part is his big, beautiful bill. And so we're talking about redistricting, gerrymandering, and these are the fights that are happening across the country that we need to know about, because this is how the Republicans are keeping control of the House and Congress.
Yeah. You said that you wasn't going to call it the big, beautiful bill. What is it that you call it?
The big, ugly bill.
There you go.
The big, ugly bill.
That's right. Let's keep it real.
But I mean, I think this is a perfect story to point out how, when we think about Congress and what's happening with that bill, this is what led up to Republicans keeping control of Congress, the House and the Senate. By cheating,
by cheating.
All right. Now let's head to Georgia, where Adrena Smith, the Georgia mom who was declared brain dead at 8 weeks pregnant, she's given birth. This story broke yesterday, and she gave birth, of course, via C-section to a premature baby boy, which they named Chance. He was born prematurely. He came in at about 1 pound, 13 ounces, and was taken into the neonatal ICU unit. This is according to her mother, April Newkirk. Now, baby Chance is expected to make it, thank God. And he was born on his mother's 31st birthday. I mean, just heart-wrenching. Now, Smith's unusual medical case made national headlines earlier this year after she was diagnosed and declared brain dead in February. Now, according to her mother's, doctors told the family they were legally required to keep her on life support because of the state's laws. And her mother criticized the hospital's decision, arguing that the law took away her family's right to make critical decisions on her behalf.
Wow. The story doesn't, it just doesn't get better. It's a shame.
It doesn't get better. And these are opportunities where you would hope the Democratic Party would jump on this and talk about why the importance of Roe versus Wade, and talk about how the current administration is taking away all of our rights. And this only happened because of them. Where's the Democratic Party to be on the tail of this story, to amplify the injustices and how we need to change this administration? Where's the Democratic Party at? Somebody tell me. Well, I'll tell you where they're at. Let me tell you where they're at. They struggling with messaging and leadership, as they recently had a redo for vice chair. And we talked about this. We had Wakinya Clatton on. She ran for vice chair. She lost. 2 men were put into place. And then the party decided to do a redo. And they held 2 separate votes for vice chair over the weekend. Now, if you remember Malcolm Kenyatta out of Pennsylvania, African-American male, he was one of the vice chairs, and he got caught in the crosshairs of this situation between the chair of the DNC and David Hogg. They really wanted to oust David Hogg, and so they did a redo. And so Hogg, that's Malcolm Kenyatta, but David Hogg, who has been heavily scrutinized by the DNC over his decision to get involved in Democratic primaries. They got pissed because he wanted to run challengers against incumbents, and the chair didn't like that. So they decided, okay, maybe this lady was right. Let's do a redo. We only want 1 male vice chair now, and then we'll have a female vice chair. But this is what Wakinya was talking about. So Malcolm Kenyatta retained his spot. We're still trying to figure out who the female will be. And so the Democratic Party is still trying to figure out who their leadership is going to be. And last but not least, I'll tell you who's not going to be a part of the committee. American Federation of Teachers President Randy Weingarten is departing. She's leaving the committee. She says she's not leaving the party, but she doesn't want to work with the committee. And she said this in a letter obtained by The Hill, that she was declining to be reappointed as an at-large member of the committee, citing disagreements with the chair of the Democratic Party. So it looks like Ken Martin, the chair of the party, maybe he needs to go, Stacy.
Maybe so, because they are in total disarray.
And you have the redistricting in North Carolina. We ain't heard the party about that. You have the young lady in Georgia. The party ain't saying nothing about that. They over here fighting, trying to figure out who's going to be on the committee.
Oh boy.
This is where our party is. And let me tell you where party leadership was over the weekend. There's more, Stacy. There's more. Vice President Kamala Harris and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, they recently, over the weekend, Saturday to be exact, attended political strategist and former Hillary Clinton aide, Huma Abedin. She had a wedding on Saturday with philanthropist Alex Soros, the son of progressive billionaire George Soros. Now, they got married. They were at a wedding held on Saturday, the same day as the No Kings protest and Trump's military parade. So also at the wedding was Nancy Pelosi. You had Chuck Schumer there. And so while America was protesting, you had Democratic leadership in New York at a big fancy wedding.
Yep. Yeah, you know, I knew she was married before, and I couldn't think of who. I should have easily known or remembered who she was married to.
Yeah, her ex husband is Anthony Weiner. Remember him?
Uh-huh.
Weiner.
Wiener.
Wiener.
Because he was showing his wiener everywhere to
Yeah, so
young people.
and so now she's married, you know, to one of the biggest funder. Well, yeah, his family is one of the biggest funders of the Democratic Party. So all of the Democratic donors were up in New York while the Democratic voters were having a No Kings protest. I don't know optically how that looked. And it was rumored that the Obamas were invited, but as of now, it seems they were a no-show, which I think was a good idea because I think optics are horrible to see Democratic leadership at a wedding while everybody that voted for them was in the streets saying no king.
Oh gosh. Yeah, so, I guess so. I'm just laughing at Patricia Jackson and the others in the chat. That's all. You can go for
what do they say? Tell me.
It's about showing his wiener. Oh. That's what he did. And right. He went to jail.
He did. But look, now talk about a come up. Okay, she did better. I'm glad he showed his wiener. If I was her, I'd be glad he showed his wiener.
You say wiener and come up with the same sentence.
Look at the come up.
Stop.
That's a come up. She's married to a billionaire. Well, he's gonna inherit $1 billion dynasty.
Right.
Good for her. But bad for the Democratic Party because now that we know where the leadership was, that's a problem. They could have easily said, let's make a statement. Let's postpone the wedding and go out with the people.
In other words, they could afford to postpone the wedding.
They could have. They could have done a lot of things, but this right here is not one of them.
It's not one of them.
And finally, closing things out in sports, the Oklahoma City Thunder is 1 win away from an NBA title. Now, Game 6 returns to Indianapolis on tomorrow, where the Pacers will need to win in order to stay a contender. And Angel Reese becomes the WNBA's second youngest player to land a triple-double. The Chi-Town Barbie posted impressive numbers. She had 11 points, 11 assists, and 13 rebounds during the Chicago Sky's game against the Connecticut Sun.
Good for her. You know, her rival. What's that girl name? Caitlin Clark. I'm trying to think of the name that Dawn calls her, but I can't remember something. But nonetheless, she was involved in a huge brawl. Well, she necessarily wasn't involved. It was because of her, and naturally, she doesn't get involved. Her teammate was sticking up for her, but her teammate committed a horrible foul and retaliation of somebody fouling Caitlin Clark, and they got into this huge fight. And it's just Caitlin Clark. I don't care what y'all say about Angel Reese and anybody else. Caitlin Clark is a problem, and not in a good way. And she is a problem. She talks smack, and then she's known not to have her teammates back. And people were saying her teammates don't always have her back. Well, the teammates showed that they had her back, but yet, how do they fight for you and you back down? You know, it's a lot that Caitlin Clark situation is unsettling to me. But nonetheless,
I like Caitlin Clark, and I think I think that technology is messing up the game. But when I think of Caitlin Clark and I think of Angel Reese, I think of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. You know, two different upbringings, two different cultural experiences, but two great basketball players. And they have ignited and given the WNBA the moment that they needed to grow. And so I think that the social media and the media is what messes up this great rivalry that we could watch play out and just watch some great basketball.
Yeah, you see that caption there. What's interesting about that is this is a woman, Angel Reese, who knows about marketing. folks was getting on her about what they termed to be me bounds, meaning that she's rebounding her own misses, right? She misses so many shots. That's why she gets so many rebounds. And so they've been calling it me bounds. Well, now Angel is like, cool. Now she's trademarking, or at least attempting to trademark the term me bounds. So you remember Michael Jordan back in the 90s, you know, looked to coin the term or trademark the term three-peat. So, you know, this is a business-minded young lady.
Magic Johnson, you know, like she's, you know what I'm saying? She's good at what she does. And she understands that the bad news is just as important as the good news because it keeps her in the headlines. So I love Angel Reese, and I'm not mad at Caitlin Clark either. I think that they are good for the game, and they have provided many opportunities for a lot of young basketball players because of them that I love women's basketball, college basketball, WNBA. It's because of those two.
Yeah, I think too in both cases that they got to be careful that all of this stuff, and I think it has in both cases to some extent, this success and this coverage has gone to both of their heads in some ways. So I think they got to be careful with that. They got to keep that in check, because you mentioned Magic and Bird, and those two were able to keep their stardom in check and delivered on the basketball courts, so that they were able to continue to deliver off the court.
Right. So, and I see them doing it. I know Angel Reese last year caught flack because she decided to go to the Met Gala. And they was like, oh, she has a game tomorrow and oh, this and that. Not only did she win her game, but she delivered some great stats. And so I think that they are very in the moment. And I think that they are the right two for the job, because they understand the moment, but they understand the opportunity. And I think that Angel Reese seizes the opportunity more than Caitlin Clark, because Caitlin Clark also operates from a space of privilege that Angel Reese doesn't have. So she could get more. But Angel Reese is just, you know, more dominant in a space like Me Bounds, Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, deals, McDonald deals. She understands the moment and the opportunity, and she's taking it all as she should.
People need to relax with that. Oh, she attended the Met Gala and she had a game the next day. In other words, it was her day off. You ain't gonna tell me I need to sit by a computer on my day off.
Yeah, but I think it was a setup for her to glow, and that's exactly what happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, she owned it. Walked the carpet,
I mean,
looked
but
fly.
the thing is, she could do whatever she wants to do on her day off. This is her day off. She chose to go to the Met Gala. Good for her.
Right.
I mean, come on. She could have gone anywhere. She could have done anything. But this idea that an athlete, especially this particular athlete, has to be playing basketball 24/7, or has to eat, sleep, and drink basketball 24. No, you need to everybody. She's human.
Right. Well, she didn't get that slack this year because she proved the point last year. So they didn't even bother her this year.
Well, that's good. They need to, and that goes for all athletes. You know, you got let them breathe.
Yeah.
You know, so here, you know, that's that. All right. Any more news and headlines from you this morning, Niele?
That's it.
That's it. She closed it out. So we're gonna give you a black fact on this date. In 1941, A. Philip Randolph forces President Roosevelt to issue an executive order banning racism in hiring in the military and defense industries. Randolph was so frustrated with segregation in the United States military and pervasive discrimination in defense industries that prohibited blacks from benefiting from the skilled, well-paying jobs they provided, that he planned a march on Washington to protest that segregation. On June 18th, in a meeting at the White House with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the NAACP Secretary Walter White, and the National Urban League's T. Hill Arnold, he demanded that the president intercede. He says, our people are being turned away at factory gates because they are colored. They can't live with this thing. Now, what are you going to do about it? And Randolph insisted that the demonstration, which Roosevelt desperately wanted to avoid, would go on unless the president issued a strongly written executive order. His hand forced Roosevelt issued Executive Order 8802, which prohibited employment discrimination in government and the defense industries and created the Fair Employment Practices Committee to monitor hiring. So you think about that, and you think about what this president that we have today is doing.
Yeah.
Terrible.
And who is going to save us from it? Because apparently the Democratic Party is not ready.
See, folks, I don't have to say nothing about y'all Democrats. She's doing it all.
Well, I mean, you know, and I'm a Democrat, so I should be able to point out and let them know that we need some talking points. It's a lot of shit going on out here. And I don't hear nothing but infighting from the party. Okay. But let's talk about some healing. You know, June is Black Music Month, and there is nothing more important to the Black music experience than gospel music. So today we remember Thomas A. Dorsey, the father of gospel music. He co-founded the National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Courses in 1933. 6 years later, he teamed up with Mahalia Jackson, and the team ushered in what was known as the golden age of gospel music. He penned 3,000 songs, and a third of them were gospel. He's known for his timeless hymns like Precious Lord, Take My Hand, Peace in the Valley, and The Lord Will Make a Way. Now, he was born July 1st, 1899, and he died at the age of 93 in 1993 in Chicago, Illinois. There you have it, Thomas Dorsey.
Thomas Dorsey. All right. So our Black-owned newspaper today, I thought we would, because it's the eve of Juneteenth, I thought we would use one of our most prolific, most famous, and not many, if any, is more famous than the Baltimore Afro. The Afro knows what it's like to endure challenging times. John H. Murphy Sr., a former enslaved man, founded the Afro more than 130 years ago with $200 from his wife, Martha Howard Murphy. Together, they created a platform to offer images and stories of hope to advance their community. The Afro continues to provide readers with good news about the Black community not otherwise found. The Afro-American, as they are commonly known as, has employed many notable Black journalists and intellectuals, including Langston Hughes, William Worthy, and J. Saunders Redding. In the mid-1930s, it became the first Black newspaper to employ a female sports writer when it hired Lillian Johnson and Nell Dotson to serve on its staff. Renowned artist Romare Bearden began his career as a cartoonist at the Afro in 1936. Sam Lacey, who was hired as the paper's sports editor in 1943 and who, at the age of 94, still wrote a weekly column for the newspaper. And he used his weekly A to Z column to campaign for integration in professional sports. So using their writing to protest racial inequities in professional sports, Lacey and sports writers such as Wendell Smith of the Pittsburgh Courier helped to open doors for Black athletes, now fourth and fifth generation members of the Murphy family, with leadership from Dr. Tony Draper as publisher and CEO, along with a governing board of family and community members, manages the Afro. The Afro has such rich history. So our newspaper, our Black-owned newspaper of the day, is the Afro.
Nice. It's a lot going on, folks. And you know that if you want it from the Black perspective, all you have to do is head over to BlackPressUSA.com.
Absolutely. And check us out again, I guess on Friday. Tomorrow's Juneteenth. So some folks are going to jump the broom or something like that. No, that's getting married.
Yeah, so it's Freedom Day. So we're going to take all the liberties that we can get tomorrow. Okay.
We will see you on Friday, folks.